Well, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Got my cup of coffee here. True confessions, did a K-cup. It said special limited edition gingerbread coffee. I brewed it. I am not usually a fan of K-cups, and this just confirms why. But hey, sometimes a cup of coffee is a cup of coffee, and I'm going to use this. I'll get through it and enjoy it for my mid-morning pick-me-up. Thanks for spending these few minutes with me. We've been trying to wonder our way through the entire story of the Bible. And as I've been planning this and working on it, it's really remarkable to me how much happens in the first 11 chapters of Genesis. So much, like well-known stories, key stories that happen. And I've kind of been at a loss of what do I highlight and what not. And so today we're in Genesis 11. And just to kind of give you the where we are in the story, we start with creation in Genesis 1 and 2. We talked about God as creator. We talked about mankind, human beings made in the image of God, capable of relationship with God that is intimate and personal in the garden. And yet in chapter 3, what we see is sin entering the picture. The forbidden fruit is taken and eaten, and that separates the relationship. It hurts the relationship. Adam and Eve are moved outside the Garden of Eden, and we see a very, very quick downward spiral from eating a fruit to a brother killing a brother to, at the end of chapter 4, Lamech bragging about how brutal he is in avenging himself. And it's pretty bad. And so God sees that every inclination of every human heart is evil all the time. And so we get to the story of Noah and the flood. Noah finding favor or grace in the eyes of the Lord, kind of like a reset. Let's start over. Let's see if we can do a recreation. Even the blessing of Genesis comes back to Noah and his family. And here we are, just a little bit past the story of Noah, as we're talking about genealogies and such, that we have chapter 11 opens with the story of what is called the Tower of Babel, another well-known story in this thing. And what we have here is humankind has lost the plot. Instead of seeing God as gracious and God as offering them opportunities to be restored to Him, yes, God is holy and bringing judgment even on sin, humankind decides to turn away from God yet again. And this time the way they express it is through building this tower. Now, real quick, just so we're clear, building, nothing wrong with that. God, having made humanity in His image, gave us the capacity for incredible creativity. We see it all the time. We see it in arts and architecture. Loved our trip to Europe and seeing the different cathedrals and even places in America, different architectural marvels that you can see. Art at museums, some world famous artists that painted even from hundreds of years ago, the Sistine Chapel or other such things. But even then we see the creativity of humankind in the sciences. Think about all that we have learned about how the world, the universe works, the laws of nature, so much so that we were able to harness that knowledge and land a man on the moon, which is remarkable, right? And to think what's happened since then, which isn't that long ago, right? 50, 60 years ago this happens, when this marvel of science happened, that computers fill the entire room. Now that same computer and even more capacity fits in the palm of our hands, in our cell phones and the like. It is remarkable, the creativity, the knowledge that comes to us and the abilities we have to build and create things because we're made in the image of God. But what we see in this story, it's not that they're building something, because mankind has always been building things. It's more about motivation. Because what they say is they're going to build a tower to reach to the heavens to make a name for themselves, or to make a name for ourselves, it says in verse 4. The motivation of these folks that build this tower is to express their independence from God. Somehow this building of the tower demonstrates their own ability and their lack of need for God. Some have even speculated, and there's different ancient literature that talks about why did they want to build a tower to the heavens just in case there was another flood. They wanted to show they could build something that would be able to be taller than the floodwaters had been. Maybe that's part of the motivation, I don't know. But certainly what we see in this is they desire to make a name for themselves. Pride begins to well up, and they want to show what they're capable of without God. By the way, isn't that the original sin? Isn't that what happens in the garden? The key ingredient that pushed Adam and Eve to eat the forbidden fruit wasn't that it looked real pretty and ripe and tasty, but it's that their eyes would be open, that they would become like God. And we see it again in chapter 11. They sin and they realize that doesn't go well, spirals downhill. God says sin is out of control, I'm going to do something about it. And quickly it spirals down here where mankind is taking this God-given image of God, creativity, rulership, we're to have dominion, and wanting to cut God out of the equation to make a name for ourselves, they said. And by the way, we do the same thing. Our world, this has been a constant temptation for us from forever. Today, we see it that people work long and hard hours. We live in the Keys. We have a lot of retired folks that are in our church and in our community because they've made money and they're down here to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Or maybe they come down here on vacation, the spring break season. All these people come down here to do things, to use their finances, what they've built in their career, or what they're trying to build. That we can build a career. A career is good. It is helpful. But ultimately, if it's about us, it's problematic. We can build our social media reputation. There is such a social media culture that we live in that some people live their entire lives on social media and live for likes and follows and shares, or whatever the other social media terms are, that we can become so much that we're trying to build something, we're trying to build it to make a name for ourselves. I could give you illustrations, even and maybe especially tragically in church world, where people who are trying to build a platform, a name for themselves, to be famous, to be known, to get those same likes. It is addictive. It is something in us that pride that comes that just feeds into it. And if we're honest, I think sometimes, just like in the Tower of Babel, that pride may have a little bit of fear mixed in, because we fear being insignificant. We fear being unimportant. We fear being unknown or unloved. And so we do all these things thinking if we accomplish, if we build, then we will make a name for ourselves and we'll be significant and we'll be loved and we'll be respected, or whatever the ultimate goal is. And what the story of the Scriptures tells us is God gives us this ability, these abilities coming out of being made in His image, each of us different talents and abilities that we can use, but we are to use it ultimately for His glory, not for our own. That God creates us to be co-rulers with Him and gives us this imaging of Him, of His very self, to live our lives in this world so that we would be these tangible reflections of who He is and what He wants in this world. That we find our true significance not in anything we create, but in our relationship with the one who created us. And the best example of seeing this, big surprise here in church world, is Jesus. Because we're told that He did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, something to hold on to, which is what we've been trying to do since the garden, find that equality with God, to claw our way to the top. Well, Jesus was at the top, and He says, I'm willing to give this all up. The Scriptures say that He humbled Himself, or He emptied Himself, and He became obedient. He became obedient unto death, even death on the cross. And because of that, the very next verse in Philippians 2 says, therefore, God highly exalted Him. The way up in the world according to Jesus is the way down. He demonstrates it for us. And by His life, death, and resurrection, He demonstrates God's love for us. That even though we keep trying to do things for ourselves, God doesn't give up on us. God doesn't forget us. God reaches out to us in love by sending His Son so that whosoever believes in Him can be restored to right relationship with God and can find the significance we were meant to live in. As we empty ourselves, we find significance through our relationship with God. I hope you're finding that significance, because I'll tell you, there are a lot of people that have achieved a lot of significance, success, power, money, influence, and they are absolutely miserable apart from God. And there are other people that on that scale might not look like much, but because they know and live for God, they have true significance, joy, and purpose in life. That's what we do as a church. We help each other understand that Jesus demonstrated for us the kind of life we can and should live. And it's not clawing to make a name for ourselves. It's so not to make us great, but to make His name great. And that's why we exist as a church, to point people to Jesus, to show them His love and goodness and grace, and to allow that love and goodness and grace to be a part of our lives so that we can live it out in a way that brings us not just significance for the 70, 80, 90 years of our life, but significance that lasts through eternity, through a relationship with Him. We hope you know that. If you want to learn more about it, there's no better time to come learn about who Jesus is and what He has done than these next few weeks. Palm Sunday is this Sunday, Easter Sunday, the Sunday after that. We see that humility, that emptying of Himself that Jesus does on the cross, and we see God exalting Him through the resurrection and through the ascension to show that He is our true hope. And we hope, if you don't have a place to worship, you'll join us. 9 o'clock on Sunday, that's when we get together here for our worship, both this Sunday, March 29th, and Easter Sunday, April 5th. Easter Sunday, we also have a sunrise service at Penny Camp Park, 6:45 a.m. Would love to have you join us for any and all of those services, and would love to help you know more about what life really is about. And it's not about you. It's about the God who created you and who sent Jesus to redeem you. That's what we're going to talk about every time we get together. Hope you can join us. Now I'm going to go finish. Okay, maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to promise I'm going to finish the rest of this coffee, but I'm going to go get something to drink, whether it's the rest of this or something else, and let you get back to your Wednesday. Thanks for these few minutes. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and would love to see you with us either Palm Sunday or Easter Sunday for worship. Take care, everybody.